I met one of my Christian friend few years back. He was telling me had the British would not ruled us, India would have been a broken pieces now.
It is not true. If the British would not have come here, India would have been a fragmented nation. That's not correct.
We had culture, we had integrity, we had principles, but British education is the education that today we are following, right? What did that really happen with the Indian minds?
If you allow them to remain as Indians, will be never be able to rule them, subjugate them. Looks, let them be Indians, but in their thought process, we have to make them British.
Hi, in the last podcast with Dr. Sahadeva Swami, we understood that how British looted us. They made us lives miserable and we lived a life of slavery. And he used very strong words called as barbaric colonial rule. So, what have they done while they were ruling India was the main topic. But after leaving India, how they harmed us. We just want to go into this topic because it is very serious topic because they have left lot of impressions on Indians' mind after their colonial rule. So let us get there. Namaste Swamiji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So it was a great insight that you throwed on us that, how barbarous they were, what kind of a mind games they were throwing on us, how they looted India. So all we understand is they just, did a wrong partition and then they made us fight for centuries together, maybe decades together. So is it the only thing that they did to India, or there is a lot of other things? They played mind games on us. So we just want to get there.
You see, when the British left India physically, but the ghost of the British that even today haunts India.
After 75 years of
Yes, the
independence.
ghost. British physically left, but the British inside us, they stayed back. That stays. The British element stays.
Okay.
This was, as I mentioned last time, this was the biggest brainwash in the history of human race, what British did to India in terms of 2 centuries of brainwashing, destroying our culture, our way of thinking, and that is the biggest damage they did to India.
Okay.
So India is a nation with a great past, with a glorious history, with so much of cultural divergence.
Yes.
A cradle of civilizations, that is India. They portrayed it in a completely different light.
Okay.
Uncivilized, barbaric, and underdeveloped, starving. And actually that was their creation.
Okay.
So, yes, British actually done a lot of harm to India. Yes.
I met one of my Christian friend few years back. He was telling me had the British would not ruled us, India would have been a broken pieces now. India, when British entered India, India was multiple kingdoms. And if you are seeing an India map on the globe today, that is the credit goes to British. Is there any reality in this claim?
India, I'll come to this claim. India has been, the whole word was, from the history we learn, Vedic history, the whole Hastinapur, Prithvi Pate. Every time in any Vedic scripture, the emperor is being addressed as Prithvi Pate.
Okay.
So the emperor of the universe, of the whole planet.
Globe.
So globe. Now the thing is, India was a much bigger territory. When there has been shrinking, the borders have been shrinking. And 47, the borders further shrank. And then there was, even after we lost thousands of kilometers of our territory to China, so borders have been shrinking. And even now there are attempts, to break away. There are several states are trying. that we don't want to be part of India. So the tendency is to break away.
Yes.
So it is not true if the British would not have come here, India would have been a fragmented nation. That's not correct. Though there were kingdoms here, and but they were fighting, no doubt. See, primarily what happens is Kshatriyas. Fighting is a sport, is a way of life. India is a land of martial races.
Yes.
So they need to fight. So India was actually a nation. The concept of nation is not implanted by the British. India has been a nation,
Yeah.
Just like there are states now, and there is a Kaveri issue between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu.
Tamil Nadu, yeah.
There are statewide issues.
Okay.
So there were issues. But India did exist as a nation even before the British.
Okay. So they actually, they harmed us mentally because of 200 years of slavery and constantly bombarding this on the mindset of Indians that everything, the way you eat, the way you dress, the way you speak, the way you drink, they tried to sophisticate us. That so-called sophistry that they incorporated, they showed, we're aping it even today. So I want to know what happened to Indians, because it is been told that once a child is abused in his adolescence or when he was a kid, he carries that impressions of that abuse all his life. So why are we aping the West so blindly? And I just want to know more about the kind of harm they did us on a mental level.
And their SOP or Modus Operandi, it is important to understand. India is an example of the oldest living civilization.
Yes.
Where civilization has survived through not centuries but millennia. Thousands of years. Even our temple, many temples are thousands of years old. Even today, stone structures. Our texts are thousands of years old. So British were quite intelligent. What they did, I'll give you an example. For example, tea, drinking of tea. India is a tropical country. You don't really need tea, or Indians didn't know really.
Yeah.
Tea in the modern sense, what we are having. Indians didn't know. So in Calcutta, Dalhousie Square, they used to park their cart with tea and they would freely distribute pamphlets.
Okay.
Brochures that tea is good, it will help you, because they wanted India to grow tea so they can have tea back in their country.
Oh.
So Indians have to get addicted to tea. Then drinking. Drinking was not in fashion, at least at that time.
Okay.
So there is a street in Calcutta called Potterley Street.
Potterley Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
That street is even today is called Potterley Street.
Okay.
And they hired some prostitutes.
Oh.
When they would evening, they will hang around there with pots of wine, and they'll lure some rich man's sons.
Okay.
They will lure and try to get them addicted to wine, drinking.
Oh.
So that was their propaganda. That, you see, the thing is, somebody had cut his nose. So everybody was teasing him. He's a nakata. He's a man without nose. Then he influenced co-villagers. This is latest fashion, and had everybody cut their nose. And only one person is left with nose. Then he is being teased as a man with nose.
Oh, very.
So they wanted the whole India to adapt to their ways, so they will not be any more odd man out, the black sheep.
Oh.
So it's a massive plan and massive what they did to our land, our people actually. And I may conclude, you see, physically things are different, But inside, mind is the place of first creation. That's where everything flows from,
Yes.
Physical building, physical manifestation is secondary. First is thinking, feeling, and willing. That is what consciousness is.
Yes.
So that's what they worked on,
They hijacked on our thinking,
feeling and willing.
feeling, and willing also.
Yeah, so they hijacked totally.
Then Indians lost in terms with reality. Indians,
Yeah,
what were
totally
their ancestors? What are they?
They implanted us their version of reality in us. They created a matrix, a massive illusion. They cast a spell on the country, which continues even today. Though the bindings are loosening a bit now,
Yeah. So drinking was introduced by British to Indians.
You see, this is very much, these things were not at all Indian society. You see, yatra papas chaturvidham, striya suna panadyuta, yatra papas chaturvidham. 4 things were considered vile in Vedic culture.
Okay.
They are considered vile, that is striya suna. One is having extramarital affairs.
Oh.
One should be properly married and lead a gentleman's life. Then unnecessary animal slaughter. India, meat eating was not at all very common. There was no culture of mass slaughterhouses like what we have today. Kshatriyas, some races were allowed, that too on their systems. But unrestricted meat eating was never there in India. Striya, suna, pana, drinking. Drinking was very much looked down upon. There were no pure breweries like we have today. Tribals may have been brewing household, like fermenting something, but it was just not there. Even today, you go to any remote village where they have some culture left, nobody drinks there. Even there are places like that.
Yeah.
Then, so drinking or any intoxication for that matter. So third and the fourth is gambling. So these things were relatively unknown in India. And that's how they were systematically introduced in India. Actually, Srila Prabhupada explains in Calcutta, the family, the Malik's family, they're considered a very elite class of Calcutta. So when Mr. Malik, his cousin, will have to eat meat, he would pay money to these in stable, those who are taking care of horses.
Okay.
So he will give them some money, and in the stable outside, he will be cooking some meat there.
Out of the house.
In the stable where the horses are, those horse keepers, stable workers, they will be cooking some meat, and then he'll eat and then wash up his mouth and come back.
Oh.
Even so Prabhupada explains, during his childhood, these things were not common.
Oh. So meat doesn't enter houses.
Sorry?
Meat doesn't enter houses.
Yeah, there were lots of houses were like that. And what to speak of drinking and all. But the British made these things as fashionable, status symbol. Even today now, you are the odd man out if you are not a social drinker, right?
Yeah.
Corporate world.
Corporate world, everybody, weekend if you don't drink, or leave of weekends, even in the parties,
Right.
Office parties, you just have to, for socializing, you need to have a glass of wine in your hand, and if you don't do it, you are considered an odd man out. Not drinking is an odd man out.
Yeah, so same thing, nose, somebody with nose is being teased upon.
Yeah, very beautiful analogy of given that how you can brainwash the public. Swamiji, when you said of gambling, so I want to understand about the clubs. So there were some elite clubs, my grandfather, my father's, during that times, there were some clubs like, they established certain clubs, and having memberships was considered a status symbol.
Yes.
So can I understand? And people,
Right.
this British, I have seen in movies where they do their ball dancing with the woman, cigarette
Very good
and
question.
drinking. So I want to know more about it.
You see, some things you can learn only by association, in association.
Yes.
A child learns to drink milk, not wine.
Yeah.
To be drinking wine, you need some association of drunkards. So
Yeah.
what they did was they established these clubs. Like in our city, we have clubs.
Yes.
Right, going back to the British era.
Yes, we have.
And membership in those clubs was considered, a status symbol, a sign of, you are an elite.
Yes.
In those clubs, what do? You have that association. You can learn these things. How to drink, how to gamble, how to flirt, how free mixing, they called it.
Free. I have a question just for the free mixing among men and women in the British era was quite uncommon among Indians.
Indian society has been, this is something which has been very much looked down upon. It's considered a great sin to have extramarital relations. Character has been character is actually, it's something, Vedic culture has not been about externals.
Yeah.
Try to understand. Chanakya Pandit was not driving an Audi. He was controlling when the India was right from Afghanistan to right up to Southeast Asia.
Right.
If you go to Indonesia, Bali, it's all India. If you go to Southeast Asia,
Yes.
up to Far East, there was India, and Chanakya was controlling it from his hut.
Yeah.
So India was not about externals. Even why go back to Chanakya? There is a Chanakya, when a lamp, he is doing the state work in his hut with a lamp. Then there is somebody for his personal work, somebody comes to, he extinguishes that lamp and lights up another lamp. So that gentleman asked, "Sir, what you have done? One lamp was there, you just extinguished it. You lighted up another lamp." So he said, "This belongs to state. I use it when I was doing the state's work. And now because you have come, that's my personal work. So I cannot use state's oil lamp for this work. So I extinguished it. I lighted up." So that was the character India was
high
based
levels
on.
of integrity.
Integrity, character, that was India. Even don't go so much back. Mahatma Gandhi, he was so influential. Was he big people are considered, you have better car, you have better your suit. Mahatma Gandhi was, hand woven cloth, hand spun cloth he was wearing. No big car, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have a big bank balance, but he was based on his character.
Yes.
So India was a nation wherein character was what mattered. Today, if you are not dressed up properly, if you don't come in a proper car, and you have no standing, but that was not the case.
So there's this judgment that we see that now in the current Indian society, you don't wear branded clothes. You are looked down. You don't come in a good car.
Right.
You are looked down. You don't have an elite club's membership. You don't have a class. All this, we are aping the West, and we are aping the British ways of establishing their superiority complex, right?
Obsession with the externals.
Definitely.
Just the external, very shallow. Really, everything is very shallow. And with our Indian ethos is, it's concerned with what is inside, what a person really is. Externals don't matter, Indians were not. I tell you one small example. In marriage, see today how much national wealth is being squandered upon.
Yeah.
It's a $1 trillion industry practically, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, earlier was marriage, there was no wastage. Externals I'm talking. What happens? Somebody didn't have time to stitch a proper dress. He would just put a new cloth and stitch a 1 rupee there and go to marriage. What does it imply? That I've got a brand new cloth, though I'm in the old, my shabby whatever kurta. I've got a cloth and I've got money to pay for stitching also. And he was perfectly accepted. India was very simple people,
Okay.
very simple, high character country of people who were very high moral and character. You see, Prabhupada explains during famine, what British created, artificial famine,
Yeah.
40s of Bengal,
Bengal famine.
6 million people died.
Hmm.
There is not one recorded case of looting or stealing, not a single case of recorded case of looting or stealing.
Oh. People would prefer dying rather than
Yeah,
robbing.
and I tell you, there were, until recently, I have been to places at least in the hills, people never locked their doors. I have seen those places. And I tell you, if you take Kathmandu, one of our industrialists here, he was a young man. He had, some disagreement with parents. So he left for Kathmandu.
Mhm.
So he told me 67, 60. What he found there was you are not supposed to lock your shop because that's an insult to the king. Just bolt the door and go.
Oh.
Even today, for example, we go to our ISKCON temple in Kathmandu. It's Buddha Nilkantha area. You can slide we carry our MacBooks and our
Yeah.
expensive, but there are no grills. So they looks like there is. It is not. There has been there. It was societal setup was different. Not at all obsessed with externals.
Then what is it that they gave education and polished as mean? Because we had culture, we had integrity, we had principles, but British education is the education that today we are following, right? We are actually following three things. One is their education. Second is their constitution, I guess.
Yeah, kind of British era. A lot of things continued from British era, though we made
and the dressing that they left on us.
Right.
So what did that really happen with the Indian minds? Because we kicked them off, but then we continued with their education. So how did they get that education into our?
When they came to India, when they saw what a nation, how can you subjugate this country? You got to destroy the core strength of this nation. The Gurukula systems, the dietary, the agriculture, the mainstay of this. Until early 20th century, India was a net exporter of rice. Srila Prabhupada's maternal, all his relatives were rice exporters.
Oh.
So India was not only self-sufficient, India was a net exporter. Then how they destroyed, that's all documented. So point is, when they saw this great nation, Macaulay just openly, it's all there. What he told, that if you allow them to remain as Indians, will never be able to rule them, subjugate them. You got to brainwash them. You got to make them, in the color and in their looks, let them be Indians. But in their thought process, we have to make them British. So they hired different scholars. They paid hefty salaries. Just like Radha Kumar Mukherjee, I think, it was paid 500 rupees to write that actually beef is, It's a Vedic era. Beef was widely eaten, and they were paid money to misinterpret. That was their master plan, masters.
So, in the name of education, what is it that they were educating us? They were educating us on writing and speaking English. That was their main agenda.
Yeah, you see, their education policy was that anything Indian, anything traditional is bad. It's outdated, it's uncivilized. And whatever you are importing from Europe, see, America didn't matter. Until World War II, it was all Europe.
Yes.
US didn't matter at all.
Yes.
But only after Europe fought with each other, and that's where you have two superpowers coming up.
Yes.
But Americas, they were not allowed to practically, they didn't matter. So whatever you're getting from Europe is actually real thing, the civilization, the civilized thing. Whatever you have is trash, garbage. Your culture, you are garbage. Your culture is garbage. Everything is trashy. Your practically, all your texts are like, I mean, you should read some of them. If you read them, what they were thinking or pretending to think, they were thought of Indian systems and India. Like Ayurveda, for example. How can you look down with such an advanced science? So many texts, So yeah, they did that. And the dress, you see, we are a tropical climate.
Yes.
We are not temperate like them.
Yes.
So tropics to wear all this kind of, it's very uncomfortable. Traditional, our dresses,
Are generally
dhoti,
loose,
kurta, this
pajamas,
are very
very simple and very comfortable loose dresses.
And I tell you, it dries up quickly. You can take shower, because Indians were used to showering,
Yeah.
So it dries, things dry up. It is only the industrialization what came. Degradation started when you bring them from villages to the city, ghettos, to the slums. That's where need came for cinema. The theater was, traditional theater is all about Ramayana, Mahabharata, it's all about good.
Folklore dramas.
It's all very instructive, traditional theater.
Yes.
So they needed, now you have slums.
Yes.
See what happened when a worker your repetitive jobs is very stressful. So there comes the need to drink.
Now you said another new point, introduction of cinema.
Right.
Entertainment.
I'll just quickly finish this. When drink comes, and after drink, then you naturally need non-veg. Otherwise, drinks will eat away your intestines. And when you have a combination of drink and non-vegetarian diet, then the character might go for a sixer. So gradually, you see this degeneration sets in.
And they introduced something called as a theater and cinema to the Indians, and then we picked up from them and we evolved to an extent that.
Yeah, cinema has been, you see, these are all discoveries. Naturally, all these discoveries have come from the West.
Yes.
Cinema has had massive influence in terms of violence and sex. Cinema is all about violence and sex.
Agreed.
And romanticizing and portraying some, man-women relationship, What you see in Bollywood and Hollywood and the, reality.
Ground reality of
ground
life
realities are vastly different.
Doesn't sync, yes.
Doesn't sync. So this has done a great harm. Whole generations were in terms. Cinemas have set that as a new normal. They changed the totally, the consciousness of the nation, and set that just like smoking. This is like was considered, not now, but cinema set is like a status symbol,
Yeah. Style.
Your style is you are up there, then you smoke.
cinema generally decides trends.
Trends, yes.
Trends in dressing, trends
Dressing,
in behavior,
everything. How you think also.
how you think.
How you talk also.
But the origin of the cinema, you said, is British.
All these inventions are definitely not from here. So, and we are very good in copying.
Yeah.
You see what happens, Srila Prabhupada gave an example that there is old crow and new crows. What happens to a point now, people like in 60s for example, the whole, they have had enough of that, all that. Like old crows are not very enthusiastic in digging up checking the garbage. They are relaxed. The new crows are like, what is there? What is there?
Inquisitive crows.
Inquisitive crowd. So we overtook them in some ways or many ways.
Very nice example. So they just left it, and the old crows were little smarter that they understood it. But the new generation after them, they had an inquisitive one. And we considered everything that is ours as inferior and everything that comes from outside as superior.
Right.
That makes me understand, Swamiji, that how emotionally they have, hijacked us. We really would have, been that inferior complex bred. They have induced that so that we felt everything from drinking coffee to alcohol to the way we dress and, everything. Their thought process, literally we imbibed their thought process. Very good insight, Swamiji, that you have clearly explained the cultural degradation of India post-colonial rule. But the very important topic that I liked of all of this is cinema. So our next podcast, we will talk on cinema, evolution of cinema, and how it had played a significant role on the cultural parameter of Indian shift. Thank you so much for your insights, Swamiji.
Thank you, Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.